Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Jerusalem has offered the Islamist Hamas a new draft proposal entailing far-reaching concessions in exchange for the release of hostages. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is set to offer Israel normalization in exchange for a tangible political process with Palestinians that would lead to a so-called two-state solution. France is making extensive efforts to avert war between the Iranian proxy Hezbollah and Israel. Israel has reportedly drafted a proposal for temporary cessation of hostilities alongside far-reaching concessions in exchange for the release of a number of hostages from Hamas captivity, which, according to British Foreign Secretary David Cameron, constitutes a, quote, pretty generous offer. Per London's top diplomat who addressed the matter in a Q&A session at the World Economic Forum in Riyadh, prospects for peace remain out of reach. However, were Hamas to accept the Israeli offer, Great Britain, alongside the United States and other Western allies, will opt to pressure Jerusalem's political leadership to bring the over 6 months of war since Hamas launched its brutal massacre upon southern Israel on October 7th to an end.
I'm never optimistic about this because it never pays to be optimistic on peace in this very difficult situation. But it does seem to me there is now, let's be frank, a pretty generous offer of, sustained 40-day ceasefire, the release of potentially thousands of Palestinian prisoners in return for the release of these hostages who've now been in captivity for over 200 days. So I hope Hamas do take this deal, and frankly all the pressure in the world and all the eyes of the world should be on them today, saying take that deal. It will bring about this stop in the fighting that we all want to see so badly. And let's assume for a second that does happen. That would be a good outcome. But then the most important thing is how do you build the momentum to turn that stop into the fighting into a permanent, sustained ceasefire and a political process that can bring this conflict to an end.
Also addressing the Israeli offer, which has been presented to the Islamist Hamas via Egyptian mediation, was Cairo's top diplomat, Foreign Minister Samih Shoukry, who voiced cautious optimism over prospective breakthrough.
So we are hopeful. The proposal has taken into account the positions of both sides, has tried to extract moderation from both sides, and we are waiting to have a final decision. There are factors that will have impact on both sides' this decision, but I hope that all will rise to the occasion and recognize that we cannot have the situation of continuing loss of life. The humanitarian situation is absolutely horrific, and it can only get worse if this continues as we have seen over the last more than 6 months.
In tandem to Israel's offer of far-reaching concessions for the release of hostages, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in close collaboration with the United States, are trying to convince Israel to abandon its security obligations to further eradicate the Islamist Hamas via a ground offensive into the Gazan border town of Rafah by offering a historic Israeli-Saudi normalization agreement in exchange for a suitable ceasefire alongside a start of a political process with the Palestinians that would indicate a pathway to Palestinian statehood.
We have done intense work together over the last months, and in fact, well before October 7th, this is what we were focused on. And in fact, I was scheduled to be in the region, to be in Saudi Arabia and in Israel on October 10th, a trip that didn't happen because of October 7th, to focus specifically on the Palestinian piece of any normalization agreement, because that is, as you said, an essential component. I think, look, the work that Saudi Arabia and the United States have been doing together in terms of our own agreements, I think is potentially very close to completion. But then, in order to move forward with normalization, 2 things will be required: calm in Gaza and a credible pathway to a Palestinian state. So, to the extent we finish our work between us, then I think what's been a hypothetical or a theoretical question suddenly becomes real. and people will have to make decisions.
Secretary Blinken went on to highlight the Biden administration's hope that Hamas accepts Israel's offer for a hostage release deal. Moreover, Washington's top diplomat also reiterated the Biden administration's persistent objection to an Israeli offensive into Rafah, irrespective of the fact that the Islamist Hamas remains fully in control of the border town in question with 4 operational battalions.
Hamas has before it a proposal that is extraordinarily generous on the part of Israel. And in this moment, the only thing standing between the people of Gaza and a ceasefire is Hamas. They have to decide, and they have to decide quickly. So we're looking to that, and I'm hopeful that they will make the right decision.
It is important to know that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had reportedly postponed a Rafah offensive twice in recent weeks to exhaust every diplomatic option to retrieve as many as possible of the 133 Israeli and foreign nationals held captive by the Islamist Hamas in Gaza. Consequently, and displayed concern over a possibility that the Prime Minister would capitulate to international pressure over an offensive into Rafah altogether, Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich warned that it would lead to the dissolution of the governing coalition altogether.
אם חלילה תחליט להניף דגל לבן ולבטל את הפקודה לכיבוש רפיח באופן מיידי לצורך השלמת משימת השמדת חמאס, החזרת הביטחון לתושבי הדרום ואזרחי ישראל והשבת כל אחינו ואחיותינו החטופים לביתם, לממשלה בראשותך לא תהיה זכות קיום.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to rising concerns over Jerusalem's capitulation to foreign demands, telling representatives of both bereaved families and hostages, respectively, quote, "The idea that we will halt the war before achieving all of its goals is out of the question. We will enter Rafah and we will eliminate the Hamas battalions there with or without a deal in order to achieve the total victory." Meanwhile, families of hostages in Hamas captivity continue to hold daily protests, urging the international community to act decisively versus Hamas.
18 world leaders sent a letter saying they demand the immediate release of all hostages. And I want to ask everyone to stop the talking and start the actions. We are losing people that are alive now, and there is no time to waste. We also know a deal is possible. Israel, Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, we trust you, and we urge you to do everything and bring our people home now.
While Jerusalem continues to do everything in its power to return the 133 hostages home, it is simultaneously contending with the northern threat emanating out of Lebanon in particular. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz hosted his French counterpart Stéphane Sejourne in Jerusalem after the latter visited Beirut, where he held extensive talks with Lebanon's leadership in an attempt to avoid an all-out conflagration between the Iranian proxy Hezbollah and Israel. After concluding his talks in Lebanon, Paris's top diplomat stressed that no one has any interest in Israel and Hezbollah to pursue this escalation.
Nous refusons le scénario du pire. Au Liban du Sud, la guerre est déjà là, même si elle ne dit pas son nom. C'est la population civile qui en paye le prix. Personne n'a intérêt qu'Israël et que le Hezbollah, d'ailleurs, poursuivent cette escalade. J'ai porté ce message ici auprès du Premier ministre Mikati, auprès du président du Parlement et du chef d'état-major des armées. Et je le porterai également, ce même message, en Israël dès mardi.
It is important to stress that the IDF has intensified its operational activities to force Hezbollah north of the Litani River in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 1701. The intensified activities, which include dozens of aerial strikes on Hezbollah terror targets, including weapons caches and military infrastructure, along the border, were struck over the course of the past 24 hours alone. Meanwhile, Israeli residents of northern Israel are prepared for the worst.
It doesn't concern me, but we are getting prepared because we have 3 kids. So we are aware of the situation and of the dangers, so we do prepare in advance. We have some water, dry food, and things in our house for a couple of days stay without I don't know, electricity or supermarket or anything.
I really trust our army and our nation to defend itself. I think we will manage even if we get attacked. I think we will be all right.
I am a little bit concerned because it is an unusual situation. It's the first time that we are in this kind of threat, and I'm a little bit worried.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to initially encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Moreover, I'd like also to thank all of you who've stood by TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based and as such, broadcasts free of charge. Your monthly donations make it possible for us to guarantee that content that truly matters reaches millions of households worldwide. If you have yet to contribute to TV7 Israel this month and are both able and willing to do so, please visit our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.